Back on MorningLine, our guest with us this morning is John Ray Clemmons. He is a state representative. He has House Bill 1589. We're talking about it, the Tennessee Anti-Lunch Shaming Act. All right, so there are going to be some critics, and I'm going to do my very best without puking to give you maybe what their argument is, which would be, all right, I don't like the idea of this bill, Representative, because it's not teaching kids the responsibility of knowing that you have to pay for something you buy. It's a bootstraps thing. You need to be able to pull yourself up by yourself and find a way to pay. And if we just forgive this debt, what kind of message are we sending to the children of Tennessee?
Right. So there are.
Okay, I didn't puke while I said that, but I felt it coming up in the back of my throat.
No, and I've heard that argument from my colleagues.
That's classic. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I love those colleagues. That's just classic.
I'm not going to go into the whole fiction of this whole bootstraps mentality.
Well, there's something to be said for teaching responsibility, fiscal responsibility. I understand that.
Absolutely.
I just don't think this is the way to do it.
Yeah, and I was raised to take responsibility, to work hard on a farm, and those types of things. But at the same time, we're talking about children coming from generally tough backgrounds. Mm-hmm. Their families in poverty. They're coming to school hungry, and now we're wanting to punish them for not being able to pay off a meal debt. And let's face it, what I have said the past 3 years as I've presented this legislation, I've told my colleagues who will be voting on this, if a child has accrued or incurred a meal debt, it is not the child's fault. Right. We're talking about elementary age children. These children are not out there working. They're not out there, they may be working on the farm like I did or you did or others, but these children aren't walking around with a fat wallet, learning this work ethic mentality. This bill is about protecting children. And again, nothing in this bill prohibits school from collecting the debt from those who should be held accountable, which are the parents or the guardians.
It's because of the setting. It's the school setting and the fact that we're dealing a lot with small children that gets me. It's like, these are not children that are buying luxuries, or I've taken a candy bar from a store and not paid for it, which I, of course, believe they should be held accountable for if they're shoplifting. These are kids just going through the lunch line of the day, eating, this cafeteria food, which I guess maybe's gotten better, but as I remember, it wasn't the greatest anyway. But
my children love it.
Filled my stomach, and it's better today maybe than when I was a kid. It's not that. That's why the whole bootstraps thing falls. These are not luxuries. This is, and again, I don't know what the cost of a school lunch now. I think just the basic one is less than $2.50. I think, isn't it? It's
That's
not
ballpark,
expensive at all.
And it differs from county to county. But what we're talking about here is, we've got instances where children are coming to school hungry, and we know. Here's what we know. We know that hunger is an adverse childhood experience. We know that poverty is an adverse childhood experience, and we know that those have a direct impact on children's performance in the classroom. Yeah. We have a duty to provide these children with an education, a free education. And we talk about constantly, you hear us politicians talk about, we want to improve test scores, we need to hold teachers accountable, we need to hold children accountable. Well, we need to do everything in our power to make sure that children and our teachers are in a position to succeed. Yeah. So if children are coming to school hungry, then we need to make sure that they are fed so that they can perform.
And here's the side of it too. When they come to school hungry, sometimes it's because the parents are doing their darndest best to make it happen, and they're just having trouble and they've hit hard times. But you know as well as I do, there's a bunch of deadbeat loser parents out there. So some of these kids are coming from homes that are not all that great to begin with anyway, and that's one reason they're coming to school hungry. All right, not all parents. There's a lot of bad parents out there. There's others where they're doing everything they can and they just can't afford it, and I understand it. But I'm just saying, some of these kids coming, they don't have much of a home life anyway. And they're coming there, this is the only place they're going to get something warm in their tummy.
We can't control everything as a government, but what we can control, and we have a duty to control, is what happens in those in that school building. Yeah. And if we do our job in that school building and make sure these children are in a position to succeed, I think we will start to see a lot of improvement. And we're talking about, they may have come from a difficult home life, they may come from a difficult family life, but we need to be focused, and we should be focused on improving things for that child, so that they are not repeating that cycle.
Yeah, that serves us all in the long run.
Take a step up.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Let's go to Ed. Ed, good morning. Hi, Ed.
Good morning, Nick. Good morning, there, guests.
Good morning.
This brings back memories. I remember when in the early years, my years in school was in the from about 1946 to 1959. And first school I went to, a lot of people couldn't pay for lunches. So the kids would bring in a sack of potatoes, and they'd bring in food. And the only thing it cost us was for milk, which was a nickel a day. And so anyway, and I remember some of the kids wouldn't eat, didn't have anything. And there was no program in those days to take care of it. And I remember picking up lunch trays so my two sisters could eat. And I'm in favor. You're not teaching this. If they say, well, they got to be responsible. These are kids. First grade. What are they? Age 5, 6, 7. Hey, they're not. It's not their fault that they don't get sent to school with lunch money.
Well, that's right. The ones that hit me the hardest are the elementary school and maybe some of the middle. Right. Once you get to high school, I feel bad for them too, but the youngest ones especially. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, he said it perfectly at the end. I mean, this is not their fault. Why are we punishing or stigmatizing children for something that is not their fault? And it's only going to make their school experience worse. I've heard again from individuals, they dreaded school because they were afraid of lunchtime, because they knew what was going to happen at lunch in front of all their fellow students and their peers. We want children. School's hard enough for a lot of students.
Right.
We don't want to add to that stress. And our children, my children are going now. I've got a 10, 8, and a 5-year-old all in elementary school right now. But you see the stress. You see all these types of things and the tests. And we're compounding that. And my children have it good. We're very good with respect, comparison to a lot of other children across the state of Tennessee. So you can only imagine the stress, having somebody, just thinking about a child, 6, 7 years old, worried about going to school simply because they're afraid of lunchtime, because of what is going to happen and what the children, and then of course the bullying that comes as a result of that.
Compounds it.
And I will say, he's talking about the late 40s, and of course times have changed, but as we sit here today in the state of Tennessee, our state is sitting on over $1 billion rainy day fund. This fiscal year alone, we are hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. Our tax revenues are through the roof. What are we going to spend our money on? We've sat here and we've hoarded $732 million of wasted TANF money, that's been reported, that should be going to help needy families. We're sitting here with an instance where children across the state of Tennessee are going hungry and they're not getting, their lunches at schools. What are we going to spend our money on? What are we going to do to improve the life of Tennesseans? And what better way to do it than providing children with meals at schools?
That being said, let's be real clear, I guess, with your House bill anyway, there is no fiscal note attached to it.
There's no fiscal note. They put a caption in there that said, if local or if LEAs are unable to collect debt for some reason, which my bill does not prevent in any way, there's no fiscal note otherwise.
Meaning that it's not like, well, if they doesn't, then the state fund is going to cover all this cost. Now, you make a good point that maybe lawmakers could choose to say, let's do more to help with these lunch programs. But that's not something. So I'm just saying, a lot of times one reason, folks, bills fail in the legislature is because they have fiscal notes. They cost money. And they're very picky about what they pass. It's going to cost money because the taxpayers complain about that. And that's good most of the time. But this does not have a fiscal note attached to it. So that cannot be an excuse as to why a lawmaker doesn't vote for it.
Yeah, the fiscal note is the most often excuse used to kill a Democrat's bill, or a bill somebody may not agree with and don't want to go on the record as opposing for some other reason.
Right.
Well, the fiscal note in this instance is not significant. In fact, it should be zero, because this doesn't prevent schools from collecting a debt in any way, and it's just the right thing to do.
It would essentially make it the law then that schools cannot do things like put a wristband on a kid or have them do chores afterwards to pay off or something like that. And I think most schools, if this became law, would abide by that law. There's no teeth to it, like they'd be punished if they didn't. But they follow the law, and right now there isn't a law that prohibits them from doing that. So that's essentially what it did.
And most regulations and rules such as this, they don't have teeth. There's no misdemeanor.
Right.
There's no
because I think the schools are going to want to follow the law, and so they'll follow it if it passes.
Well, let's start with the fact that they should want to do this anyway.
Right.
The law shouldn't be necessary.
That's what I said. I can't believe that we have to have a law passed for this.
Exactly. But I want to put it in. I want to codify it and make sure that it is not being done and prevent it in the future.
Let's go to Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Good morning. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Dick.
Hey.
I do have one thing I want to say to him.
Sure.
Okay. I was a woman who that had a child, and I raised that child by myself. And I did pay for his lunches, and I wondered why my child was so hungry when he got home. I couldn't figure it out, so I started making him a lunch bag, right?
Yeah.
And which I didn't have a lot of money, but I planned things out. That's what you have to do. And then again, I decided, okay, I'm going to school, and I'm going to go ahead. I had day off, and I'm going to go ahead and try out what's going on. Because when I grew up in Nashville, I went to Aiken School, then I went to Head Elementary when the buses started, and then I went to Smyrna, right? Mm-hmm. And you know what? We had the greatest lunches in the world. And a lot of people already had gotten them and didn't have to pay anything, but nobody looked down on them because they were always clean children. And anybody that needs help, take it, right? And so anyway, as I got to be an adult, I could not, and I would save money out of my little tiny check and pay all my bills just to have my child a hot lunch, right?
Right.
Well, Tennessee let me down real bad. I wondered why he wouldn't eat it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to see it. One, Sloppy Joe Day was the greatest day. Two, Spaghetti Day was.
Okay.
But you don't mash up spaghetti and then throw on your leftover Sloppy Joe sauce. Hey, don't separate the spaghetti from the sauce, right?
So you were
That's how they did it in the old days.
So you were disappointed in the food.
They didn't do that. I was like, yeah. Then I went again.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I said, what in the world is that?
Well, it's a little off point a bit, but I mean, as I said, I think the school lunches, by most standards these days, are better. I mean, nutritionally better than ever before.
Well, that was one of First Lady Michelle Obama's big initiatives, right? The healthy lunch program.
But I think the president says he's pulling back on that now, and he wants to have more sodas, hamburgers, and French fries.
Well, that's another debate for another day.
Okay.
But our meals are better right now, and my children do not want me to pack their lunch. They insist on eating their school lunch, and I think MNPS deserves some credit for that, but it's ultimately a result of the requirements that were put in place under the Obama administration as an initiative of the First Lady during that time.
Let's go to Rob. Rob, good morning. Hi, Rob. Are you there, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to ask, how much does each school charge for lunches for children across the board? Is it all the same or different prices for different ones? Second, I don't know why that they allow it to build up till they get ready to graduate. Every year they ought to be required to at least tell the parents and keep them informed on how much they owe.
Right.
And also, if we're going to force them to send their children to school, we should pay for them to have a decent lunch at school, and we could afford it if they'll take what money they're pouring into sports and apply that to the food system back into the school system. Also, if they'll take what money they're getting out of the lotto and put that back into the school system rather than send that money to higher education, because actually a child, all it needs all that it needs is a high school education. You're putting too much money in getting the children in debt, deep in debt, from going to school down at the lower end when you force them to go to school?
Okay, yeah. As far as the answer, I think Mary Elena, now she has a son in school right now here, a producer, $2.25 to $2.50, she says. And, you know, sometimes you can buy extra chips or, you know, an extra strawberry milk or something like that. But that's about what it costs, Rob, I think, for a school lunch these days. And, you know, the idea that they have to go to school, right? Find a way to make sure they have something to eat.
Right. I mean, again, he echoed a lot of my earlier points. You know, the children are required to go to school, and so what are we going to spend our money on? We're collecting a lot of money through the lottery, and of course there's allocations for that and places it must go. But we're sitting on a lot of money as a state of Tennessee right now, and we talk a lot about childhood student performance, and we talk about holding teachers accountable. Why aren't we doing the foundational things and investing our money where we can, and we know it's proven to have a benefit on child or student performance, and address this hunger issue?
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back. Our final segment, a few more calls, and we'll wrap up where the bill's going to go right after this. Stay with us.